we would like to now play for you a piece from the klezmer ensemble, beginning with a trumpet doina that we know from a recording from the 19-teens. It was recorded in Istanbul by Orchester Goldberg. In fact, musicians from this part of the world, from Bessarabia, traveled to Istanbul and traveled to many cities on the Black Sea. And the Jewish musicians and the Gypsy musicians and non-Jewish and non-Gypsy musicians formed a community in Bessarabia, a special community of professional musicians. They were not folk musicians. They were professional, urban musicians, and they were multi-ethnic. And we found out in our research going there that actually the people even there today don't quite get it when we start asking questions like, is this Jewish? Is this Gypsy? They'll say, well, let's see. My aunt is Jewish, my mother is Gypsy, and my father's sister is Ukrainian, and so what does it matter? You know, really, that's kind of the feeling. And it's been remarkable for us. I say this here at the National Yiddish Book Center, with many of these musicians and also with Brave Old World. I've done a lot of collaborations with other bands. Brave Old World collaborated with Muzikash, we collaborated with some Ukrainian bands, and with a New Orleans brass band, but I've never had the feeling, like with this project, that it was like a long-lost cousin or a brother who was waiting for us to come back. And that's the feeling of connection and love that Nora was talking about at the beginning. If we imagine that 80 years ago there was a community that I described of klezmer and lautar musicians who lived in Bessarabia, and because of the history of the 20th century, basically you can imagine that this plant was split into two plantings. One continued to grow in the United States in all of the influences of America in the 20th century, and the other continued to grow in the Balkans with all of the influences. And they grew very, very far apart. You'll notice that the music that you just heard sounds very, very different from the klezmer music that we play in the klezmer revival, and even different from the music that had evolved by musicians like Sammy Musiker. Some of you know some of the recordings in the late 60s that included swing and so forth. So in this project, one of the things that we've been trying to do is a kind of genealogy or like a DNA study of our own biology, and try to understand how do these links all work and how do they bring us back to this place where we started from one common place. And so there's a scientific side to this project, which is all of that, understanding the history, and then there's an artistic side of this project, which is simply taking that and then playing it. Okay, so this next piece now is a suite of klezmer music played in a rather old-fashioned style.